Contrarians, welcome back to the Encrypted Capital Recap for Friday, October 21st. First off, let's take a look at the leaderboard here. We got Moderna. I know it's not a crypto, but that's up 6.1%. Let's see if they decide to bring back the sickness here and increase the price of their stock. I mean, this thing went on an absolute tear. Let's see where this was at. At one point, I believe it was in the 20, no, it was lower than that. 1138. Rode it all the way up to where? 486. Let's just see what the price gain on being in the pharmaceutical industry would have gotten you. 5,200%. I mean, that's like a crypto back in the bull market. So Moderna, we'll see. It's definitely at some level of support here. We'll see if that decides to fly to the moon. If that does, maybe we'll be in tandem with crypto. Who knows? But we do know that they do have a correlation between crypto and equities. Looks like Pfizer's also up. Go figure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting a rally now that we're getting into the winter season here with all the sicknesses going on. As far as crypto is concerned, though, a lot of stuff is flat. Actually, I don't know if this is accurate. Where are we at here? Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so yeah, just a handful of cryptos up about a point or two. Nothing too crazy just yet. Bitcoin, let's see where Bitcoin's at today. I think it's hovering around 19K or so. Yep, 19 on the dot, basically 1908. Also that at a significant level of support. We've been putting that out in our newsletter for a little while here. This is actually isn't the best chart for Bitcoin. You want to go to the Bitcoin Liquid Index here. As you can see, resting on top of support around that 20K level. We'll see if there's another scoop for liquidity here. Another push to the downside to really get any stop losses in place that are sitting just below 17.7 or so. As we talked about yesterday, you know, the Bitcoin futures when that launched. That's why you see those arrows over here. Bitcoin futures launch. People in the know go short. Contract expires in a year. After that expires, that actually signified the bottom, and then we rally to the upside. So check out yesterday's video. We dove into that a little bit further. So for now, we got global recession may last until 2024. Bitcoin halving, says Elon Musk. Says the world could be stuck with recession until spring of 2024. Musk guesses in a fresh blow to the risk asset outlook. As we also talked about yesterday, how Elon Musk just ragdolls prices back and forth. I really don't trust anything this guy says at this point because he's just been notorious for misleading investors. But he's saying that Bitcoin may spend the time until its next block subsidy having battling recession. In a tweet today, he revealed his belief that the world would only exit recession in the spring, and recession will probably stay until Q2 2024. Okay, well, if you guys have been following anything, I think we're way past the recession at this point. I mean, Jesus, look at the price of eggs alone. 90 cents, I believe it was, before COVID. Now I'm paying about $3.30. So you're talking about a 400% gain roughly just in common items that you grab at the supermarket. So I think we are probably past a recession at this point, and that's just what they're calling it. We'll see if we get some push up in equities, maybe kind of distort reality a little bit here. But I think that things are much worse than we're actually led on to believe in the mainstream media. Let's see here. So Musk was touting this. He says, just guessing, probably until spring. Having also said it sure would be nice to have 1 year without a horrible global event. So yeah, we've been talking about this. You know, the powers that be leading us from crisis to crisis to crisis. You know, they lock you up in your house for how long? And then the very day you get out, you have the George Floyd stuff take place. That causes pandemonium. Now you have people wanting to change their genders up and that whole argument. And then every political shit commercial on TV is about rape, abortion, incest, who lies where on what, just completely dividing everybody on every possible topic. It's actually very, very disturbing to watch. I hope you guys don't watch the news too much because that will lead you into a depression. You kind of got to just focus on you at this point because all the shit they're spewing out right now is basically meant to attack your brain and get you so confused and so depressed that you'll be willing to take whatever path the powers that be want to lead you down, in my opinion. And that's pretty obvious that this is what's taking place right now. So We'll see. Customers battle to regain billions in Bitcoin. The DOJ recovered in its largest seizure of stolen crypto. So this story, I was reading through it, pretty insane. The way that Bitfinex was acting with this whole hack that took place. And this is just, again, it just adds validity to kind of what we're saying here about why you need to keep your money off the exchanges. But I'm going to read through some of this here just because I think it is important, and it's very disturbing to me as an investor in general for some of the shadiness that was taking place on the Bitfinex side. So this all happened. About 70 million bucks were drained from customers' accounts on Bitfinex in 2016. And so they're interviewing this guy, Frankie Cavazos, who sounds like he's in the mafia. He lost 15 Bitcoins in the hack. And over the course of the last 6 years, obviously the value of crypto has skyrocketed. So today, I'd be trading around 20K. And so this guy is still hoping to get his Bitcoins back. And it says that so far, thousands of victims like him haven't experienced the happy ending that they were hoping for, which is obviously getting their coins back. So what happened was, on the day the news broke that the funds had been recovered, so they recovered the funds, Bitfinex publicly asserted that the stolen Bitcoin should be returned to the platform in a statement. It said Bitfinex will work with the DOJ and follow appropriate legal processes to establish the rights to return the stolen Bitcoin. So here's where it gets a little crazy and disturbing. So it says that's because the company believes it's already made its customers whole by providing them with a variety of digital tokens that customers could sell in exchange for cash after the hack. Okay, so a company spokesperson told CNBC that the customers could have sold the tokens for cash and then used the cash to buy more Bitcoins at the time. Well, here's the issue with that. It says the decision to offer customers tokens came after the company decided to generalize its losses across all account holders. So everybody had an account with Bitfinex took a 36% haircut, right? They lost 36% of their balance, no matter if they got hacked or not. So what they did was they created a token called the BFX token to represent Bitfinex. So customers received one Bitfinex token for each dollar they lost. Okay, so you lost 20 grand, you got 20,000 in this BFX bullshit token. Okay, so Cavazos told CNBC he felt like Bitfinex just dumped those tokens on its customers, and they were not given the option to decline the BFX token, which rightfully so. I would say the same thing. It says he and several other hack victims spoke on this documentary, which reports the theft. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right. So now the main issue here is that, and this is what the customers brought up to CNBC, is that when they decided to sell their tokens, they were actually worth pennies on the dollar. So they were supposed to be pegged, the 1-to-1. And at the time, I believe it dropped from like $1 to 20 cents. It says they pegged them to $1 for the BFX token. They put them on the open market and it went from $1 to 20 cents. So they were essentially allowed to FOMO everyone out of their debt, which is super shady on their part. So this guy, Rafal, had 91 Bitcoins on the platform, said he sold the tokens as fast as possible when they came available. And then he was only able to get like 25% of their value. So if you lost 20 grand, you're walking out of there with 5 grand, right? That's horrible. So he believes there was no point in time that they refunded me, not in dollar terms and not in Bitcoin terms. So Bitfinex is basically trying to keep all the money in Bitcoins and saying that they gave their customers adequate time to sell this bullshit BFX token on their platform when it already dropped like 80% in value. So Bitfinex says they feel their customers have already been compensated fairly, and if they chose to sell their tokens before their value reached $1, that was their choice to make. Okay, so fuck these guys, because that is shady as hell. I know you guys shouldn't be keeping money on an exchange, but if the exchange actually gets the money back, I feel that they have a right to put the money back in their customers' hands, right? Because if they're the ones that aren't adequately secured and they're able to recoup that money, there's no reason why they shouldn't get it back. And now they're just playing games with their customers. So fuck Bitfinex, in my opinion. And that's pretty much the rest of the story. Look at these guys. Wow. Anyways, let's go on. Goldman Sachs came out with an article here. It says Goldman still sees strong U.S. dollar await on Bitcoin. basically because the cryptocurrency has fallen as the dollar has gone up. So as we know, a stronger dollar will lead to equities and Bitcoin declining 9 times out of 10. So a peak in the US dollar feels several quarters away. Goldman Sachs strategist wrote in a note to the bank's clients, says we do not expect the Fed to embark on easing until 2024. And a trough in growth also seems months away. And checking the experience of the 1970s, which was also a period of high inflation, Trivedi noted that the dollar didn't begin to weaken until economic activity was declining and the Federal Reserve loosened its monetary policy. So, yeah, I don't know. Can you guys see what's happening here? Okay, so they come up with this C19 bullshit, and no matter what side you sit on, whether you think it was fabricated, hijacked, really happened, didn't happen, what they did because of it was absolutely criminal. Okay, so they shut down everybody's businesses, so you can't make money. They stop the money velocity and print a shitload of money. Okay, so now they're making the average family struggle. In the meantime, gas prices dropped temporarily, and now they've whipsawed them to the upside because of the war with Russia, supposedly, and COVID, and then all the products and goods that aren't getting sent out now because of everything that's going on, all these other fabricated crises, like these ports getting locked up and ports getting blocked and all this other shit that they probably made up. And then, so the prices of everything go up. People have already lost their jobs. They're not working. They're depending on the government to suck the teat of the government. They shut down small business. They keep their own businesses open. And then they jack up the price of gas, which also jacks up the price of everything else. And so now you've either lost your job or you're taking a pay cut, or maybe you haven't lost your job, but prices are still high as hell and people are barely able to make ends meet, nor do they have any savings left. Can you see how you are all being played? If you think this is all random occurrence, you're sorely mistaken, and you need to open up a book and do some research and get off of Fox and CNBC, because you are all being played. Okay, my contrarians, you guys, obviously think the opposite way. You guys do not follow the herd mentality, but this is clearly what is going on. Okay, clearly what's going on. You guys are being played 110%. So if you are smart, you're probably going to be sitting in gold, silver, and possibly crypto. I can't say for sure if crypto is going to go up, down, left, or right over the foreseeable future. But if you have an all-weather portfolio and you have your portfolio breaking down into different sectors, chances are that one of those sectors will go up while the other one is falling, and you will at least be able to keep some of your money, if not make some more on the upside, depending on what sector is moving to the upside or which one is going down. And then you can get into obviously shorting against your positions and stuff like that to limit drawdown, but that's for another day. So anyways, point being, hedge your bets. Don't go crazy into one particular asset or group of assets. You want to have an all-weather portfolio. And let's get into capitulation or profit taking. Bitcoin whale moves 32,000 BTC, which has been dormant since 2018. So that would normally be an over-the-counter transaction. So over-the-counter basically just means like under the table is how I think of it, right? It's off the public exchanges. It's done on an over-the-counter exchange, which basically just means that it connects buyers and sellers without affecting the price of the asset on the public exchanges. So if you have 32,000 Bitcoin you want to sell at 20K a pop, it'll line you up with a buyer who wants to do that transaction, and it won't actually go on the books, so to speak. So that's how that works. Let me take a sip of my coffee here. All right. Now, so this guy, Dormant, basically just says that buyer could be willing to acquire 32,000 BTC at 19K. They actually went on here and showed where this 32,000 was purchased. So this guy clearly knew what he was doing. If he was purchasing it at 39.01, that was the low of the last bear market before things started to skyrocket. So that's why the article is like, is he capitulating? Is he just giving up his positions right now at this technical level? I don't know, man. I mean, that'd be really hard to believe since he actually bought the exact bottom. And if he didn't really sell anything on this last wave over here up to the upside around 69K, I guess it could go either way. So it said that even right now, 337,000K of accumulated BTC is still being hodled in those wallets. And that's the other thing too. Like, just because 32,000 BTC was purchased right here doesn't mean this guy doesn't have multiple wallets, right? You you have multiple, I mean, 32,000 BTC here, but what if this guy has 100,000 BTC total and maybe he just wants to go buy his yacht or something now because now's the right time or whatever, it could be a million different things, but just because that much is in one wallet doesn't mean he doesn't have several wallets. So, but one thing that we did know that was that a lot of this stuff is starting to, a lot of the Bitcoin, I should say, is starting to leave exchanges. If it's starting to leave exchanges, then that means that people are trying to hold their Bitcoin on cold storage and they're not looking to send it to exchanges or keep on exchanges to sell. So that would mean that you'd be waiting for the price to appreciate. So that would be a good thing in my opinion. Now, I did want to point this out. Data from on-chain analytics firm Glassnode shows that over the past few days, major exchanges have seen their BTC balances decreasing more per day relative to the previous month than any time since mid-July. So this proves my point here. It's even showing right here on Glassnode that the money is leaving the exchanges, which could be a good thing here. So what else do we got here? Bitcoin finally makes its debut in the Guinness World Records. So the world of cryptocurrencies has now been recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records, which added Bitcoin to its new Cryptomania category, recognizing the top crypto as the first decentralized currency. Interesting. I guess you could argue the decentralized aspect of it, but we won't get into that right now because if you've been on this channel for any length of time, you already know our stance on that. But interesting to see. Also want to point out Ripple tweeted this yesterday. To navigate the growing mainstream interest in interacting with digital assets through the banking system, financial institutions need to consider the requirements necessary to offer crypto-enabled services. Our white paper shares how. So there's a lot of stuff coming out with Ripple over the last, couple months with the SEC and whatnot. And I think it kind of just reiterates the fact that the banking system needs to get overhauled and there needs to be a new system put in place, which is where the ISO20022 protocol comes into play. And this guy, Stuart Alderati, who I believe he's the general counsel over at Ripple, 35 years of legal experience. He said over 18 months and 6 court orders later, we finally have the Hinman docs, internal SEC emails and drafts of his infamous 2018 speech, which was where he basically talked about Ethereum and Bitcoin not being securities. So while they remain confidential for now at the SEC's insistence, I can say that it was well worth the fight to get them. So kind of moving the needle forward here with Ripple and XRP. And I found this article that also came out. This was actually about 10 days ago or so. But it talks about how ISO 20022 will take Ripple to the next level. A win for ISO 20022 will be a huge win for Ripple. So if you guys don't know, that the ISO is the new protocol. We've done like a million videos on this stuff. You guys can go back and look. But ISO is basically the banking standard, which is set to launch for all compliant entities to use in November. And if adoption picks up, the standard could become the global banking language connecting all the world's banks and financial service companies. So the idea is that Ripple XRP will be a bridge currency to be utilized with this new banking protocol. So Ripple is betting on the standard's success by becoming a member of the ISO committee, building its crypto's fundamental value by proxy. So they've already partnered with all the big banks. I mean, I think this has already been done, and it's just now that they're finally starting to release this information here. So I wanted to point that out, as well as the fact that now is the time for financial institutions to adopt ISO, and here's why. This is from the Times of India. This was last week. Basically says that domestic and cross-border payments continue to grow exponentially in the face of banking systems becoming wider and more dynamic, underscoring the critical need for standardization in payments. So really all they're doing is, instead of it taking 5 days now to send money, it's going to be like 5 seconds. And they're going to use assets like XRP and others to be able to do this. And there's only going to be a handful of them that are utilized, most likely. There will be some interoperability, I'm sure, so you can go in and out of Bitcoin, etc. But they do need to take advantage of what's available to the public on the blockchain, but they do need to have like the private smart contract portion of it as well. And so this is where like the R3 quarter blockchain comes into play, and then the assets that'll be utilized on that. Again, we've done like a million videos on that stuff. So go ahead, check those out. And What's the last thing I want to talk about today? Over 70% of surveyed El Salvador citizens say the country's Bitcoin strategy has failed. And basically says that, they see the adoption of Bitcoin as a failure, and they consider the BTC adoption as legal tender in 2021 alongside the dollar to have been a failure. And 75.6% of respondents said they haven't used crypto in 2022 at all. So, having the contrarian mindset, when things are most hype, everybody was super stoked about El Salvador using Bitcoin and mining with volcanoes and all sorts of crazy shit, which I don't even know. Like, did that really happen? Maybe. But now the fact that they're coming out saying that it was a failure could be a good time to pick up some Bitcoin, in my opinion. I mean, even if Bitcoin drops below 19K, 17K, in the grand scheme of things, that could just be like, well, did you buy Bitcoin at 12K or did you buy Bitcoin at 17K? Or I should say $12 or $17, and then it goes up like crazy. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You're probably going to have a good entry point if you're dollar cost averaging in. You'll be in good shape so you can take advantage of any price fluctuations to the downside, which is why we talk about dollar cost averaging in and having some dry powder on the side. So with that being said, I think that'll wrap it up for this edition of the Encrypted Capital Recap. If you guys like what you heard, please drop us a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next video.